Hello and welcome to Football Friday here on Bay TV. I'm Jennifer Jewell, and joining us in the studio we have our two football legends, Mr David Fairclough, and back from Thailand, Mr Graeme Sharp, so welcome back.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Lots to get through in the week of football today. We're going to talk about the two very exciting Europa League games a little bit later on, but we're going to start actually with Liverpool's FA Cup win last weekend, David. Great win, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's been a good week for Liverpool, and certainly the cup win at Palace got them off on the right foot. It was a game which perhaps some people felt could be a bit of a banana skin for Liverpool. We've known how well Palace have been doing in recent weeks, and it's a difficult place to go to. But certainly Liverpool approached it right, and although they went the goal behind, I think the attitude was right, and ultimately their abilities won through, their strength really. It was a great win. And
it was great to see a goal from Adam Lallana, who hasn't been on the score sheet too many times, but great to see a good performance from him, wasn't it?
Yeah, Adam Lallana, I think a few weeks ago, or maybe 6 weeks or so ago, he had a little run of games where you would begin to see the real Adam Lallana. I think his season has been a little bit fragmented. He had the problems with missing most of pre-season, and I think that's always a handicap for players if they don't have that full pre-season programme. And Adam has certainly suffered from that. So I think, again, you know, he's picked up an injury, and you know, his season has been stop-start, and that hasn't done him any favours. But certainly to get a goal always inspires and builds confidence. Pity he wasn't able to get another goal last night when he was offered the opportunity.
Definitely. Are we starting to see the best of Adam Lallana, do you think, Graeme?
Yeah, I think so. I think it takes time for him to settle in. I think, unfortunately, nowadays, because you come for a high price tag, you're expected to just fit in there and play. But I think coming to Liverpool, you know, he has to bed in. You know, he's playing for a bigger club now, more expectation on him. So it takes a little bit of time to bed in. But there's no getting away from the fact he's a quality footballer. But I agree with David, the fact that he has been injured, you know, and he hasn't had a run of games, and, you know, to get your form. So it's been an up and down season for him. But, you know, listen, Liverpool know what they're doing. They've signed a player who's an excellent player who will be a big part player for them many years to come.
Now, the FA Cup this year is pretty wide open, isn't it, now, for the three top teams that are left in the competition, really. Are Liverpool starting to really sense a trip to Wembley could be very, very imminent?
Well, I think after the dramatic fourth round games, I think the opportunity was there, and I think when Liverpool were drawn against Palace, maybe had dropped slightly because of the trickiness of the tie. There were plenty of potentially easier games, but I think it's focused their mind on the opportunity that is there. And as you say, with just the three big names in there, you sense perhaps that it's there for the taking. You know, obviously it's not a foregone conclusion, that's for sure. But it's a very interesting competition, and it's pretty much open. The fact that United have been drawn with Arsenal maybe sort of now gives even more teams hope. But certainly, it's a great opportunity.
It's certainly getting itself down to a Steven Gerrard Cup final, isn't it? I think the way the draw is going, I think the Manchester United-Arsenal game, I think it's a great draw for Liverpool. You know, and I think they'll be looking forward to going as far as they possibly can. Obviously, Steven Gerrard's last season as well, it'd be an ideal scenario for that, for Steven. But I think all Liverpool fans would have smiled when they saw the draw, thinking this could be our year.
I was going to say, yeah, it seems to be going in Liverpool's favour, doesn't it? The next round draw, home draw.
Yeah, I mean, much was made of the coincidence of Stevie's birthday being on the 30th May and all the news of his leaving of Liverpool. And as Jamie Carragher said, you'd have thought that Stevie had actually made the draw himself last week. So it's panning out, you know, favourably. It's still got to be done. Blackburn will come and hope to cause a major upset, but no, the opportunity is there, and you just sense that Liverpool are really focused on getting to the cup final.
Just a quick question on if a couple of the bigger teams again get knocked out in the next round, does that make the FA Cup more exciting, or does it make it a little bit less exciting if those big teams aren't there?
Probably to the television companies, you know, they want to see a big final, and they want to see, you know, Manchester United against Liverpool or whatever to give them the TV audience. I think it loses a little bit, you know, if the smaller teams are in there. Listen, the smaller teams being in there is all what the FA Cup's all about, but certainly in terms of audience participation, I think the TV companies want the big teams to play each other in the final, so I think they'll try and hopefully avoid each other in the semi-final draw. And you never know, but listen, you've got to give credit to the smaller clubs as well. You know, that's what it's all about. It's their dream as well, and if one of them could get there, it would be fantastic. But I think you still have to favour the bigger clubs to get there and win it.
Absolutely, yeah. We're going to move on now then to Liverpool's Europa League game last night. It was a hard game, wasn't it, David? Obviously not so easy for them to win it, to get a penalty at the end, but a good one nevertheless.
Yeah, a number of people were saying to me before the game, this should be a pushover, Turkish team coming to Anfield, but I never felt that would be the case. I'd done a little bit of research on Besiktas. They're leading the Turkish league at the moment, scoring plenty of goals, difficult to break down. They had a good record in the previous games in the Europa League, so it was never going to be a pushover. I saw Besiktas play Tottenham early in the season, and they approached it pretty much the same way last night. They kept it very, very tight at the back. They smothered Liverpool at times. They didn't give them any real space. I thought Liverpool had perhaps, in terms of an attacking threat, I think they were a little bit lightweight, and the first half probably went perfect for Besiktas. They almost created one or two little openings for themselves, but I think the intention was to keep it tight and try and snatch something on the counter-attack. So up to the half-time, I thought it had proven a really difficult game.
It was exciting, although it was 0-0 up until late on in the game. It was an exciting game, wasn't it?
Well, it was, I think, over 2 legs as well. You know, Besiktas will look at that as a decent result. You know, obviously they like to score, but they didn't do. But, you know, they kept it tight, as David says, and with Demba Ba had the opportunity, you know, maybe to snatch a goal. But overall, you know, Liverpool will be happy the fact that they kept a clean sheet and scored 1-0. So it'll be tough going over there because it's not an easy, it's a very intimidating place going over there. But Liverpool got their noses in front. Whether they can hold on to it, I'm not sure. But Slaven Bilic coming back as well, you know, to Merseyside. He was always going to come back and make it difficult for Liverpool. He wasn't going to just play expansive football and expect, you know, go toe-to-toe. They wanted to get a system. They set up very, very well. But, you know, Liverpool got the penalty in the end.
Absolutely. We'll talk about that penalty now. A little bit of a scuffle seemed to be going on the pitch. Mario Balotelli did end up taking the pen, and he's becoming a bit Super Mario again, isn't he?
Yeah, certainly he's the man who's made the headlines after the game. It was an interesting one, and it's probably a little bit unsightly. You don't want to see players sort of creating a little bit of a scuffle the way that, you know, that it happened. But Balotelli was very keen to take it, and we were talking off air. I mean, any time for me, Mario Balotelli is on the pitch. If Steven Gerrard's not there, then I would be giving the ball to Mario Balotelli and maybe Henderson. I know Steven's made 1 or 2 comments, but in terms of captaincy, I mean, it might have been Henderson. I'd have turned around and said to Mario Balotelli, do you really fancy it? And if he'd have said, yeah, I'd have said, you take it. And I just left it alone. The way that it got all unsightly, I thought was probably, you know, it was unnecessary.
I think sometimes, we've discussed this before with Morales at Everton, but if your striker's confident of taking it, and preferably to see a striker taking, you know, a penalty, you know, that gives him another goal. If he scores a goal, gets a record going. Howard Kendall was a great believer in that. But if I'm honest, if I'm a Liverpool supporter there and I'm looking at Jordan Henderson and Mario Balotelli to decide who's going to take the penalty, I would want Mario Balotelli because he's a striker. He's been in that position many times before in international football, European football, whatever. And 9 times out of 10, he's stuck it away. So it's not nice to see, but, you know, you give credit to Balotelli, you know, for having the guts to go and take it. So, no qualms for me. I know it got a little bit heated last night with some of the pundits talking about it, but for me, Balotelli done the job he was paid to do.
I think with the Everton situation earlier in the season, the fact that Baines is the #1 penalty taker for Everton, I mean, that case was slightly different. I mean, Baines should have taken it, no question. And if Steven Gerrard had been on the pitch last night, I'm sure there'd have been no discussion. But the fact that there was kind of, Henderson's a little bit unproven in terms of taking penalties, whereas Balotelli has a good record as a penalty taker. He scored 2 in the shootout with Swansea earlier in the season. I mean, when he picked up the ball, the crowd sort of voiced their approval. They were all delighted that he was set to take it. And in terms of giving him a boost, I think it was an ideal opportunity, so it worked out well.
Yeah, it did. I mean, is that something Jordan Henderson needs to learn, maybe the little situations on the pitch that he needs to just read a little bit more maturely, which I thought he dealt with it pretty well, but maybe he should have, as you said, just gone, OK, yeah, you take it, rather than had the little bit of the discussion?
I thought about that over the last sort of 12 hours or so, and actually thought that is part of good captaincy. I think he's trying to make a little bit of a personality for himself all of a sudden. He's been involved in 1 or 2 incidents, you know, where he's kind of been standing up for things. He's trying to sort of come out of himself a little bit, but I think he might have, you know, it might have spoken more for him last night if he'd have had the ball and he turned around and said to him, are you happy? You know, you take it, and everyone would have been turning around saying, what great captaincy from Jordan Henderson, I think.
Yeah,
you look at Daniel Sturridge as well. I think he was a bit taken aback, thinking what's going on here, because he would have fancied it as well. But no, I think David's hit the nail on the head there. he's having to live up to Steven Gerrard, Jordan Henderson, and there'll always be the Steven Gerrard thing. So he's trying to make his mark as well, but at the end, it came good. Everything came good.
Absolutely, it all worked out. They scored the penalty and they won the game. So going into the second leg, David, what have Liverpool got to do to make sure they're through to that next round?
Well, as Graeme points out, a clean sheet, and that's a good start. You go to the Ataturk, which perhaps isn't as intimidating as Besiktas's normal home ground, which is a little bit more enclosed. The Ataturk is a wider stadium. It's an athletics type track. So I don't know whether it really builds, the same type of intimidating atmosphere. But I think you could see that Besiktas can open up a little bit more, as they did when they went a goal behind, even though there was little time to go. They offered a little bit of a threat. So I think we'll see that more from Besiktas in the next game. Obviously, they'll go for goals. I think they might leave some spaces. That might suit Liverpool. It's going to be a tight game, no doubt about that. It won't be, I don't think it'll be a goal fest by any stretch. And it could be decided by the odd goal still. Yeah,
will they be confident they can get through?
Definitely. Yeah. I think it's a good sign. I think they will take things from the game. And as I say, the fact that Besiktas have to open up a little bit. I think with the likes of Sterling and Sturridge, Balotelli, I think we saw that later on as the game did sort of just open up a little bit as they tried to get forward a little bit more. With Liverpool's pace, they should pose a threat.
Yeah, absolutely. Join us after the break. We're going to be covering Everton's emphatic win last night over Young Boys, and we'll talk about the return leg to Goodison Park coming on Thursday as well. So join us after the break for more Europa League talk. See you then. Hello and welcome back to Football Friday. We're going to move on now to Everton's Europa League game last night. Surprised us all, didn't it, Graeme?
It certainly did. I think over the two legs we were probably the favourites and expected to win, but I think we expected a more difficult contest than we got last night. A fantastic result for the boys, 4-1 over there on an artificial pitch. We had reservations about that. How were we going to cope? But I thought from the first whistle, we dictated the play. We got on the ball. Our touch was good. I don't think there was any problems with the pitch. Obviously, falling the goal behind against the run of play was a blow. But the players reacted in a positive way and thoroughly deserved the victory. And it was probably the most convincing performance we've seen for a long, long time.
They did. The artificial pitch was a little bit of a worry going into it, but they dealt with it fantastically well, didn't they, David?
Yeah, I think they weren't put off by the surface. They've done some training, I think, haven't they, up at Widnes, which is a benefit, I suppose. The problem with AstroTurf pitches is if you play at a high intensity, if you're not happy with your footwear, then maybe you don't do things as naturally as you would normally like. So it does take a little bit of an adaptation to the surface. So Everton have done well to go there and actually perform as well as they've done.
I think sorry, Jeff. Yeah. I think they trained in Widnes, and I think it was more the fact of just getting their footwear right. Yeah. I don't think it was a case of games, of practice. It was a case of making sure your footwear is right. So when they go over there, there's no excuses. This is what you're playing in. So I think it worked well for them. So all credit to the manager for preparing in that way. But if I'm honest, I probably expected a little bit more from Young Boys Bern. I thought they were disappointing. That's taking nothing away from Everton's performance, but they weren't as good as expected.
Well, no, because of course in the group stage, they didn't concede a single goal at home, so it seemed to be a bit of a fortress, but it wasn't the case, obviously.
No, definitely. And you look at in the qualifiers, they'd beaten Napoli as well, and 5 games, 5 victories. So it was a tough place to go to. But I think Everton, right from the first whistle, adapted really well. Even the play, I thought Lukaku, from the first ball that got played up to him, he got a hold of it. His touch was good, so it set him off in a good manner. He grew from that first involvement. I thought James McCarthy was excellent, and the goal we conceded was disappointing. I know Tim Howard got a little bit of stick on the television, but I don't think he could do an awful lot about it. I think it was a good finish from the boy, but against the run of play. But a positive reaction from the players. They responded in the right way, and great to see Romelu Lukaku score a hat-trick.
Perhaps I was going to say that one player who certainly relished playing on the artificial pitch was Romelu Lukaku. That was an outstanding performance from him, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, and I said it's important when you're a striker that your first touch, when you get hold of it, it's good and it sets you up and you think, right, okay, I'm into the game now. But Romelu scored a perfect hat-trick there, a header, right foot, left foot. But that's what he's all about. You get the ball into the box, get decent delivery in there, he'll score goals. His first season at Everton, okay, being on loan, that was the sort of service he was getting, and he was scoring in regular occasions. We haven't done that enough for him this season. You know, we've had a debate on here, and I'm sure everybody debating in the pubs and everything else about Romelu Lukaku and the price tag. But I've always said that if you play to his strengths, he'll deliver. You know, and he got the service last night. He scored 3. Could easily have scored 5 or 6. So we need to keep doing that. We need to keep providing those opportunities for him. It's no use going into the game against Leicester and playing a different. We've got to play at that same tempo and continue to provide the chances for him, because his goal scoring record, when you look at it on paper, is very, very good.
It is, and as a striker, David, that service is absolutely vital, isn't it? And if Everton can keep giving him that service, can he be that player every week?
Well, it's a great opportunity for him to get some goals and build that confidence. And you play a team like Young Boys, who actually, it was a good time for Everton to play Young Boys because they've had a long winter break, and they weren't probably up to the form and the tempo of that they showed earlier in the competition. But certainly for strikers, when you played against lesser teams, I think it was always in your mind, wasn't it, perhaps this is a chance for me now to get a few goals, just bolster up your goal sort of record, and it works wonders. Even though it comes against maybe lesser opposition, he's now confident, and he'll have the feel there in his in the games going forward, I think. That's
brilliant. Now, a little bit of a sour note last night was John Stones' red card. What did you make of that situation?
I thought at the time, watching it, I thought it was a little bit harsh. You know, I think he's kind of got his hands over the boy, but I don't think it's that blatant, and I think the boy was running into bodies anyway. But, you know, in Europe, you know, the referee, I thought, was a little bit picky all night. I thought we were fortunate with 2 of our goals. It could easily have been offside. I thought the officials maybe get that wrong as well, but I thought the referee was a little picky last night. I thought it was a little bit harsh from John Stones. I don't think there was much protest from John, but I thought it was a little bit harsh on him. I don't think there was that much intent. I think he's just trying to get in front of the boy, and he's just got his hands on the shoulder. But, you know, unfortunately he got the red card, but fortunately for us it didn't affect us. And I think he misses the next game, but hopefully the next game doesn't really matter, does it? 4-1 up, I don't think we should lose that.
Hopefully not.
It's strange with the sending off, though. I mean, you don't know. You say the punishment. You're not sure that it's only going to be 1 game. You know, I mean, Markovic got sent off and got 4 games. Right, ridiculous. Okay. So you don't know how they're going to be, how strong they're going to be in terms of disciplinary things. So was that
violent conduct, Markovic?
Well, I mean, they just sent through the thing. He's been sent off once before in Champions League for Benfica, but still, no, 4 games for what was something minor. I mean, you can't sort of say back home you'd have thought, okay, he's going to miss a game. It'd be a handicap now for Stones if he is to get more than a game, because he's beginning to build a good partnership. He's looking solid, and you know, that's probably that little blow of on the night.
And he's really cemented as a first-choice centre-back now, isn't he? But is he a little bit guilty of overplaying at times, you think, Graeme? He had a couple of warning signs last night before he did give away that penalty.
He did, and, you know, I think in our day it was a case of the defender just go and kick it clear, you know, knock it into Rowe's head. But John's one of those players who's comfortable on the ball. The way he plays, he will make mistakes. He's still a young boy. He's still learning. And I think even for the sending off, I think he tried to be too clever on the edge of his own box, and the boy robbed him, and that led to the red card. But he'll learn from his mistakes, you know, no doubt about it. You know, the manager likes what he sees in him. He's confident in him. So John's learning his trade by now. So that was a little bit of a blip last night, but I'm sure the manager will continue to stress him the importance of bringing the ball out and playing, and he won't change him too much.
Is it important to stick to your principles? I know he wants to be a good ball player as a centre-half as well. Is it important he sticks to that but just learns when not to have to do that?
Yeah, I mean, he's playing for a manager who encourages that style of play, whereas sometimes even if you look at Chelsea, you know, Chelsea have no hesitation in just blasting the ball out and just starting all over again. But Martinez wants Everton to play out a defence. So I think if you're an opposition centre-forward, I think teams that play that way, occasionally you think to yourself, I might just get a little opportunity here because somebody will try and be a little bit too clever. We've seen that enough times with Liverpool. You know, Liverpool centre-backs get themselves into a pickle at times, you know. Whereas you watch 1 or 2 other teams, they you know, stick to the old adage, you know, Rosette and you know. But Stones is a cultured player anyway, so and he's going to come through well. Saw his interview the other week. Really impressed. His attitude is spot on.
Well, apart from Lukaku, another impressive player last night was Brian Oviedo, who unfortunately had to go off with an injury. He keeps cementing his place and doing well, and then he gets an injury.
And it looks disappointing as well.
Yeah.
Jennifer, looks like a hamstring injury last night. Got back and defended well, but he's done remarkably well. You know, considering he came back after a bad break, got back into the swing of things. He had to be patient to get a chance. He now's got his chance because of Leighton Baines being injured, and then that happens to him last night. So he's not having the best of times, Brian. But again, another good character. You know, that he'll be disappointed, but I'm sure he'll fight back and challenge for that position. He goes off, then bring on young Luke Garbett, you know, who came on and looked assured. He's got a sweet left foot, set up a great chance for Lukaku, who maybe should have scored again. So, you know, in that area, we're well off. You know, Leighton Baines, Brian Oviedo and Luke Garbett coming onto the scene now as well. But from Brian's point of view, it's another blow. Hopefully it's not too bad and we'll see him back soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that 4-3-3 system that Everton are playing seems to be really working well, doesn't it?
Definitely. I said before, the Derby game, I was a little bit worried against Liverpool, and I was hoping that he'd play the three central midfield players just to give us a little bit more solidity, especially when we're defending. He's gone with that, you know, and I think we lost narrowly at Chelsea. You know, by all accounts, it was a good performance there as well. So, no, he can change it. But for me personally, I'm always a believer that, yeah, it's great going forward and great play attacking football, but first and foremost, you've got to make sure you don't concede goals. And I think earlier on in the season, with the system we played with two holding midfield players, we got exposed time and time again. And people were talking about, oh, it's a back four's fault and it's this person's fault. I think as a team, we needed to defend properly. So I think in the last few games, we've done that. You know, obviously, yes, the result against Young Boys was fantastic, but the most important thing I was looking forward to the weekend in Leicester, which won't be an easy game. But again, as I said, seems to be always the case, week in, week out. It's a really important game for us. It
is. Second leg now. Is it pretty much job done for Everton, do you think, David?
I think so. I think very difficult to see Young Boys coming and overturning a 4-1 deficit. I thought they created one or two opportunities for themselves early on and looked threatening, but defensively they looked poor. So you would think that Everton have got enough there to even score, you know, a number more, you know, quite a few more. It's a Goodison. Probably disappointing thing that we were laughing before the game was now they've you know they've ruined the attraction for a good crowd. But you can see Everton winning comfortably at home.
Yeah, you can. I mean, I know it probably won't be a sellout now. It's on the TV. We're pretty much through. But the players still need the support there in the ground, don't they?
Well, they do. It'll be an interesting one how the manager sees it, and does he bring some of the kids in and decide that some of the kids might be a dangerous thing to do. I think one or two will probably be on the fringes, but he's got to make sure they go out and start well and maybe get a goal or two up. Then he can start changing things. But you know, it'll be an interesting one. As you said, the attendance, you know, I think we expect it to be a little bit closer and it will affect the attendance. But the most important thing is that get the job done, get through to the next round, depending who we get in the next round, if we get through. You know, there's some good teams in there. We were just talking about it before off air about a lot of Russian teams and Ukrainian teams as well. So it's a tough competition. So first and foremost, let's get us through first and fingers crossed we get a draw like Liverpool get in the FA Cup.
Home draw, yeah. Easy team in the cup. Like, why not? Let's hope that happens for Everton as well. Okay, join us after the break. We're going to be previewing this weekend's Premier League games. Seems like a while since our Premier League games, but we're going to preview both Everton and Liverpool's Super Sunday games. Join us after the break. Hello and welcome back to Football Friday. We're going to turn our attention now to this weekend's Premier League fixtures. And David, we're going to start with Liverpool's trip to Southampton. It's going to be a tough fixture, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think Southampton are the surprise team of the season so far. I think they've done fantastically well under Koeman, who has settled amazingly well, looks very much the part. And the rebuilding that Southampton had to do, I think probably had a lot of people thinking, well, they're going to struggle and with having a new manager as well. But no, they've been the surprise package. They've had one or two problems in recent weeks, although they seem to have handled those little problems. You know, not having Wanyama, Schneiderlin weren't sort of readily available. But the guy up front, Mane, is really making a name for himself, and he looks a real handful. and where you haven't, well, for them, they've not got Pele at the moment scoring goals, but Mane has been the lifesaver, and he's been really a sort of a surprise signing, I think, this season.
Yeah, on
paper, Jennifer, it looks a fantastic game. Both sides want to play the right way. Southampton have been the surprise package. I think a lot of people said relegation, especially when they sold all their players. So credit to Koeman coming in. But I think it's going to be a great game. I think the two teams want to attack. I can see Liverpool getting a result down there. They're just coming to run a form. I think defensively, they can get after Southampton a little bit. We talk about Balotelli coming into like a little bit of a decent form, Sturridge back as well. So it'll be a really, really interesting game, but I just see Liverpool maybe just shading it.
Yeah, well, I mean, Southampton haven't had great home form of recent in the Premier League and in the FA Cup. I think they haven't won in 4 games, so Liverpool must be feeling quite confident going down there. Well,
I think they'll go knowing that they are in a good run of form themselves. 1 loss in 17, which is good. Defence has become a lot tighter. And, you're finding 1 or 2 players sort of beginning to pick up their form a little bit. Daniel Sturridge looks a little bit livelier. I thought perhaps over the first couple of games when he was back, he was half a yard short, but he does look as if he's perhaps looking stronger all the time, which is a great thing. Sterling back for selection. So things are looking good for Liverpool. The slight problem you have perhaps is the midfield areas. No Gerrard, no Lucas. Who sort of is the steadying hand? Who is the influential player in the midfield? I looked at Liverpool last night at times and thought there was no real leadership there. I'll be honest, there was no real figurehead. That is a little worry for me at the moment, that somebody's got to take sort of control, and whether Henderson is able to do that. It's an interesting one, but we go to Southampton, I say, in confident mood, and it will be a tough one, there's no doubt about that.
Well, maybe not Henderson, maybe Lallana, who's had a lot of attention around him this week, obviously making his first return back to Southampton since his little bit of controversial move in the summer. He said he regrets the way he left. Is he going to be going into this game kind of thinking he has to make something up to the Southampton fans? Is something going to be playing on his mind?
He shouldn't really go with any real problems, because he was a good player for Southampton. He gave them a lot of good service. I'm not fully aware of the comments that he made at the time. He said that perhaps 1 or 2 comments were misconstrued, and he didn't say that he would not play for Southampton, but he was obviously keen to go to a bigger club who could offer him Champions League football. But I mean, you go to Southampton, it's not the most intimidating of places like it used to be. No, I mean, the old Dell would have been a more fearsome atmosphere. But I mean, you go to Southampton, and I'm sure there will be a few boos, but I don't think there'll be anything that'll unsettle him too much, and you never know, might inspire him a little bit more if he's selected to perhaps show them how good a player he is.
Yeah, he'll want to go down there and score. Make no bones about it. I think when I left Everton and went to Oldham, I wanted to come back and show them, that they made the mistake, and I can still play, and I managed to score a goal. So he'll be the same. He'll be revved up. He'll be wanting to go back down there, and whether he reacts when he scores, it will be interesting to see. But listen, Southampton as a player, fond memories, but it's Liverpool now, and Liverpool pays wages, so he'll be wanting to do well down there. And I think, as I said, Liverpool will just have too much for them. Yeah,
well, the reverse fixture, the first game of the season was an absolutely brilliant match, wasn't it, David? Can we expect the same again from those two teams?
It was a tough game from Liverpool's point of view. I thought Southampton played really well, and it was pretty much... a lot of people felt that 1-1 might have been a fair result. Southampton deserved something out of the game. Liverpool were a bit fortunate to come away with the 3 points on the day. But I think they started off really well. And I think that's been their success, Southampton. I think they really caught people on the hop, took the league by surprise, and that's held them in good stead. But no, I think both sides, as we've said, play attractive, open football. It's going to be, it's a tight one. I wouldn't like to call it, but I'm obviously confident Liverpool can get something.
Hopefully a close match. You mentioned it earlier, Sterling's now available for selection again. Have Liverpool missed him the last couple of games?
Not really, I don't think. I think Ibe has really come on and looked a bit of a sensation. I've never really had doubts about Ibe being a footballer, because I've seen him coming through as a young lad at the academy. And he's a big, strong lad, got confidence. all he needs to add to his game is perhaps the ability to score or to be a little bit more decisive in front of goal. Sometimes he gets into good positions and you can see him thinking, should he lay it off or should he have a go? But he's more than sort of stood in for Raheem Sterling and really kind of taken the eye, I think. So although Sterling has a lot to offer and he brings something else to the team, I think the fact that he's done so well, I think we've kind of sort of been able to sort of just allow Raheem Sterling to heal nice and, and quietly.
He's more powerful, isn't he? Ives more powerful than Sterling. Sterling will pick up in little holes, whereas Ives more direct down the right-hand side. But Sterling will like to come in and play. So Jordan Ives had a great couple of weeks. In the derby, nearly scored as well. So he's a big player for Liverpool. But I think Liverpool, with Sterling back in the side, just gives them a little bit more.
I was going to say, we're getting a bit sick of talking about Jordan Ives. He's doing that well over the last couple of weeks, which is a great thing for Liverpool fans. But is he going to keep his place, do you think, then?
Well, there's no reason why he can't, and certainly he's a man in form. And on the form he showed last night, then he has to play on Sunday. I thought he was Liverpool's star man, really. He took the eye. He's equally effective on the left-hand side. In fact, for me, he's probably more effective on the left-hand side than the right, because he's able to come in and he wouldn't be quite as shy to take on opportunities, take shots on with his right foot, rather than when sometimes he comes in from the right, he's a little bit reluctant and he doesn't know when to release it with on his left side. But certainly, no reason why he shouldn't keep his place. Liverpool have great options. I mean, it's hugely attractive to have two people like Ibe and Sterling available who give you lots of potential for running at defenders.
Definitely, it should be a very exciting game down south this weekend. Also, another exciting game is Everton playing Leicester at Goodison Park. How would you see that game going?
Well, again, it's another massive one. Everton need to pick up points to move away. The fixture open game of the season, Everton were 2-0 up, cruising, and all of a sudden we concede goals. Leicester have struggled and the time back in the Premiership, but this will be a tough game. Obviously Everton will start favourites. Everybody will look at the result in midweek against Young Boys, but this will be a tough fixture. I just hope that in the last couple of weeks it looks as if we're just getting back to something like we were last year. Hopefully that will continue on Sunday, Jennifer, but they won't make it easy for us. They'll look at this as a chance to go and pull some ground back in Everton if they can get a result. So, yes, on paper I would say Everton are favourites, but I think this is going to be a real tough game for us, and it's important that we start winning games at home because the games are running out now. We've had a little run of fixtures where I think we go to Arsenal after Leicester, which is a tough game. So it's important that we pick up maximum points from our home games, and we need to do that at Goodison on Sunday. As
you mentioned, the fact that we threw away the 2-0 lead first game of the season, and then following back there was an Arsenal game, we also threw a lead away. Has Everton's mentality changed a lot since then, do you see?
Well, I think the season would be so much better. I know you can look back in games and think if we'd done this and but happened, but I think if we'd have started off with 2 wins, I think it would have been an awful lot better and it would have made us kick on. But I think the fact that we struggled, and there was question marks over the defence, question marks over this one, that one. I think we struggled to get over that, and I think it's important. Now I think defensively we are better, but again we talk about the attacking side of things. Hopefully the confidence will come from the 4 goals we scored midweek. David's talked about it before about Lukaku and confidence. He'll go into the next game hoping and thinking, I'm going to score again. So we need to have everything, and everybody working in the right way, in the right manner, because Nigel Pearson's Leicester will come and make it difficult. They'll come as West Brom did Tony Pulis, sit behind the ball, make it difficult, try and hit us on the break, try and frustrate Everton, try and frustrate the supporters. So we've got to be patient, but we've got to make sure that we approach the game in the right way. If we do, 3 points are going to be massive for us.
We spoke about, obviously, Everton scored 4 goals last night, but actually in the Premier League, they've only scored 1 goal in their last 4 home games. So they need to start scoring more goals at home, don't they, David?
Yeah, it's important to make your home your fortress, and it's the key, I think, to your success. If you get your home form right, then your league programme turns out to be successful. And Liverpool have been a little bit victims of that as well, I think. But for Everton, Goodison's always been such a difficult place to go to, and in recent years, I think everybody has not looked forward to the visit to Goodison. So it's been a little bit easier for teams this year, but I suspect, given the confidence they'll have picked up from the young boys, I mean, I'd be backing Lukaku to be on the score sheet again tomorrow. Having said that, though, Leicester do pose a threat, and going forward, they're very, very lively. So, I mean, Everton have to be alert to the sort of the counter-attacking style I think that Leicester try and play.
And no Gareth Barry, of course, he was sent off. Will we play differently due to that?
I think, Besic can come in there and Gibson can come in there as well. So I think we've got enough bodies to compensate for Gareth Barry. I think Gareth was outstanding against young boys. So, yeah, it's a loss. You want your better players available, but I think we've got more than enough in reserve, and Besic and Gibson to come in and do a job. But as I said, it's going to be a tough game. The fact that you mentioned that they haven't scored many goals in the last 4 home games tells you that teams are now coming to Goodison thinking, we set up well defensively, we can get something from the game. So I expect to see him again on Sunday. We
can, of course. It's Blue Nose Day in Goodison on Sunday for the charity. It's going to be a great day, isn't it?
I've already had my picture taken with the blue nose on. Yeah, it's a fantastic day. It's just raising money for Everton's charity, Everton community. The work they do in the local community is outstanding. So, look forward to seeing you with your blue nose on, Jennifer.
I will have my blue nose on. Join us for the last part of today's Football Friday in just a few minutes' time. See you then. Hello and welcome back to the final part of today's Football Friday. Before we talk about Tranmere, just to let you know, you can send any questions you've got for our legends to footballfriday@baytvliverpool.com. Okay guys, so Tranmere, not doing very well at all. Another 2-0 loss last weekend at York. They're not looking good at all, are they, David, right now?
No, it was a big weekend last week because York and Tranmere are in very similar positions, and the winners of last week's game were set to actually give themselves a really big boost, and I was confident or hopeful that Tranmere actually might have got something out of that, even sort of shared the spoils, that would have kept York below them, but instead now there's a little bit of leapfrog gone on, and York sort of outclassed Tranmere last week, and have a little link to the guy who scored 2 goals actually. So I know he was delighted at getting a couple of goals against Tranmere, Wes Fletcher, and big win for them.
They do, and this weekend now they play top of the table Shrewsbury, so it's not getting any easier.
No, it isn't, Jen. But again, what you'll find now is that this league will change from week to week. Just you think you've cracked it and you've won one week and then you lose the next. So that's why they're down there. They've got no consistency in their performances. Their performances have been up and down. And as David said, it was an important game last week for them. Okay, they've lost it, but they've got to just now prepare for this one against Shrewsbury. It will be tough. They are a good side. They're one of the favourites kind of thing to go up, but you just never know. You just never know. That will fluctuate every single week. When you expect somebody to get beat, they'll win, and it's going to be a really testing time for Tranmere between now and the end of the season. Can they do it? Of course they can. It's just listen. When it goes down here and it comes to the crux and the points are massive for them, they might just come up with a few victories. So they're not dead and buried yet by a long means, but they need to get consistency in their performance, and that's why they're down there, because they haven't had that this season.
They need wins. They need wins.
Yeah.
The draws are no good to them. And if they can string a few wins together, they need to just get out the dogfight a little bit. It looks like Hartlepool are going to struggle. They're probably, for me, they're down, or,
as good
maybe
as.
wrong to say as good as. But they're in there with probably 4 or 5 teams at the moment, and a little run of consistency. They could be good enough just to pick up a few wins, just get themselves out of it. I think they'll find life a whole lot easier. It must be a hell of a strain actually at the moment, sort of fighting for survival week in, week out.
You're always looking over your shoulder, aren't you, and worried about what other teams are doing instead of concentrating on your own job. If you win the games, as David says, you'll get away from trouble, but 9 times out of 10, after every game, it's how did such and such go on? How did such and such go on?
Yeah.
Look after your own house, and then hopefully that'll take care of itself.
And that's really tiring as well. It's the tension that is associated with all that. It's preoccupation, not going out and playing freely, and it's hard enough to play football, but to actually have that little tension that's going on inside the mind, I think is also perhaps a little bit sort of a struggle.
Yeah, and just 1 point above the relegation zone now. But as you did say, very, very tight table down the bottom there. So when do they start to become really worried that it is a possibility they could drop down? Are they already worried?
I think they're worried
Now,
now, Jen.
now.
I think they're worried now. They're looking and listen, and we've talked about it before on the show about, you know, how devastating it would be if they drop down again. You know, they've got massive stakes to play for. They don't want to see that happening, so the pressure is on them now. You know, Mickey Adams will be training all week, preparing for the game, but he's under pressure as well. You know, so with that, sometimes it's not conducive to playing good football. And I don't care. The Tranmere fans will not necessarily want to see good football. What they want to see is winning football, you know, and that's what they have to get back to doing, winning games, as David says.
A few good wins, hopefully, starting this weekend. Okay, midweek game. Big talking point was Wayne Rooney, and did he dive? What do you think, David?
I thought he dived watching the game. I mean, the rule now is a mishmash. I mean, I can't make much sense of it. You know, diving to prevent injury. I mean, I mean, we never ever thought about that. I mean, if you were going to get clattered by a goalkeeper, you went and got clattered by a goalkeeper. This sort of, I don't know, the society we live in. I mean, people make excuses to say, well, should we be getting injured, and one thing or another, he was going to get clattered and all this type of thing. Well, first and foremost for me, I'd like to see, you know, did he get clattered? I mean, there's lots of ifs and buts. He said, well, he might have broke his leg and might have done this. I thought it was a nonsense, really.
What was your opinion on it, Graeme?
Yeah, I think he did, but I think that's just part and parcel of football now. You know, and just reading Howard Kendall's, you know, article saying that he told Trevor Stephen in our time to do the same. You know, if there was contact in the box, go down. Listen, we don't like seeing it, but unfortunately it's a part and parcel of football, and we've got to get on with it. And we talk about referees week in, week out, and how difficult their job is, you know, but unfortunately there's not really an awful lot we can do, unless we go back to technology. But if you do that, you're looking at every single incident on the football field. So I just think it's an era we live in. People saying Wayne should know better because he's the captain of United in England, but when it's about winning football matches, you know, nowadays he'll do anything he can.
I think if there's contact, then that's fair enough. You can go down. I mean, it should be sort of reasonable contact, but there was clearly no contact. And I think the fact that Wayne Rooney went and apologised to the goalkeeper later on tells you a little bit of something, that there was a little bit of gamesmanship involved.
Conning the referees.
Yeah, but is there a difference between avoiding a challenge and kind of simulating the challenge that was never coming?
Well, I think all these things are coming into the game now. We've avoided a challenge. You know, and for me, your mind is on the ball, and you're going to go and play. And if you can get to it first before the goalkeeper cleans you out, it's a penalty. In our day, it was more black and white. But now the rule changes, as David says, and then, you know, does it stop the way you're going? Oh, it's crazy, absolutely crazy.
A dive is a dive. Is that what we're agreeing on? Yeah, absolutely. Another big news is Tim Sherwood's now become manager of Aston Villa. Aston Villa obviously struggling down the bottom of the Premier League. Is he the right man to bring in for the job, do you think, David?
I wouldn't have said so, but I think he's very fortunate, having 28 games previous experience in the Premier League, to be given a role like that to save a huge club. I think it would be a disaster for Aston Villa if they were to go into the Championship. So to put all their sort of hopes on a young guy like Sherwood, for me it wouldn't have been my choice, but he's a very confident guy. He's probably struggled a little bit to actually build the backroom staff that he actually wanted, because he would have preferred Chris Ramsey, no doubt about that. He's gone, you know, well, previously he's worked with Chris Ramsey and Les Ferdinand, and they would have been the dream package for him. He's now had to assemble a little bit of a group, and I just wonder, I wouldn't have been wholly convinced that he is the man, but I mean, there's no way that Villa should be going down. They're playing like a sort of a team that's heading down, I have to say.
It looked better in the FA Cup last weekend, though, didn't they?
Yeah, they did, but I think Sherwood's firefighting. I think he's been brought in as a firefighter. He's got to stop them from going down. You know, the club are up for sale. You know, any new manager that was coming in was never going to get massive funds, you know, to try and turn things around. You know, the owners already said that. So you're just looking at the experienced managers who are about, would have looked at that job and thought, listen, Aston Villa are a fantastic club, a massive club, a great club. But the situation they're in at this moment in time, I don't think it's a stable job. You know, I think you might go in there and do a job, and then all of a sudden they sell up in the summer and a new owner comes in. So it's a club in a little bit of turmoil at the moment. But I can understand why they've gone for him. I'm not sure it is the right appointment, but I think it's a short-term appointment, hoping that he keeps him up, and hopefully Lerner can sell the club and move on from there. But I agree with David, and not necessarily my choice, but who else is there out there? So I could understand the reason why.
If he keeps him up, does he keep his job?
Well, I think he will do, and I think the fans will probably want him to stay. But in saying that, it's not as easy as that now, because if the club do get sold and new owners come in with new ideas and everything else, he might be out of a job again. But at this moment in time, I think he's there to do a job, and the job is to keep them in the division.
It is, absolutely. Okay, we've got a question for you guys. It's from a young boy called Finn Taylor. He sent a question in for you, and he says, what is your worst European ground or match experience? Who wants to start this one off?
Good question from Finn, that one.
Yeah.
David, have you got an answer?
Well, I mean, it's going a long way back, and I'm sure Finn wasn't around. But we went to Turkey in '77, Liverpool's European Cup winning year, and we played Trabzonspor, and without shadow of a doubt, that was the worst place I ever went to. I mean, it was the whole experience was a disaster. The accommodation that we were put in. The conditions that we suffered, there were electrical blackouts and all that type of stuff. So we had problems eating. We spent a lot of the evening times in candlelight and all that type of stuff. And when we got to the ground, it was a free for all. The place was absolutely just sort of covered by mad Turks who are crazy at the best of times. But in this outpost of Eastern Turkey, it's very difficult. The pitch was rubbish, the ball was rubbish. They set about really knocking us out of our stride. I think we were delighted to
and did you win?
come away. We lost 1-0.
Oh, no, even worse. Graeme,
I
Graeme, tell us
think
his
the Liverpool
experience.
lads were delighted to come away with a 1-0
There we go.
defeat.
We went to Bratislava in '84, and that was tough. The food, training facilities, the stadium, Eastern Bloc, not a lot alike there. The tunnel was about half a mile long all the way through, because that was a really tough experience for us, Bratislava away.
Definitely don't get that nowadays, do they?
Definitely not. I tell you what, pampered is the word, but no, that was really tough, and it was interesting in one hand, but really tough in the other.
Perfect. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, guys. Join us next week when we're going to be looking back at the second leg of the Europa League ties with both Everton and Liverpool. See you next week.